Hey there, today I've got a problem with my bike starting. Not just today, it's kind of an intermittent problem. It was happening mostly back in the winter. I wasn't too bothered then because I've got two other bikes that I can use. But at the same time, at the moment, my 75 is out of action because it needs a new battery soon. The battery's on charge at the moment now. I'm just trying to eke out that last little bit at the moment. And I've got a few long rides coming up, so I don't really want to ride the R1200gs because it's really uncomfortable after about an hour. So the GS starting problem, really it's one of three things at the moment. I'm going to try and tackle two today. The main issue is that the potentiometer, which is the gear indicator switch, hidden sort of right underneath the back of the gearbox, in a really crap place, to be honest with you, because it picks up all the crap and road rubbish. That keeps giving a false reading up on here, so it's saying that it's in second gear, third gear, fourth gear, whatever, when actually it's in neutral. Vice versa, if it's not done it yet, but it could do it, is it could give you a false neutral. You think it's in neutral when actually it's in first or second. Start the bike jumps off. So there is an issue there. What I have been doing is still starting it in gear. That's been fine doing that. I just pull the clutch in and it starts. But the problem is that stopped working. So that is probably down to the clutch switch. And I can't actually hear the clutch switch working. So if we come on over here right now, you should be able to hear a little bit of a click on the brake switch. I'll do that the other way around close up as well in a minute. Whereas that click is not present on the clutch. So you can hear a bit of a squeak, that's from the clutch lever itself, but actually the switch is not clicking its contact over, so it's indicating that there's a problem there. What I can tell you is the side stand switch is working. So if I start the bike, the potentiometer typically today, this morning, has been okay. So just start the bike, pop it into gear, the side stand. So the side stand is down at the moment. I'll pop it into gear. Okay, she doesn't actually want to pop into gear right now. There we go, popped it into gear and it stopped. So the side stand switch is working, but I'm actually considering about doing a bypass on that too, because the problem is with the side stand switch, similar to the potentiometer, it's down there in the crap, so it's picking up all the road rubbish and everything. And also it could just fail on me anyway, because switches do. It's only like a cheap Chinese switch, no doubt, and I'd rather fix it here in the garage when I've got time than be a million miles away from civilization, peeing it down with rain, freezing cold, what have you, and getting very annoyed with it all. So the plan of action probably is the clutch switch first, because I know that there's an absolute issue there and that's stopping me from overriding the system. Then the side stand switch. Potentiometer I might pull off and just give it a good clean, but other than that I'm not too worried about that. As long as I got the workaround so I could still get the bike working, I'm not too bothered about whether I can see whether it's in gear or not. When I'm riding I kind of instinctively know what gear I'm in anyway. It's just a matter of I just want to be able to ride the bike. It's kind of really annoying that there are all so many electrics on these bikes. I mean, the side stand switch, yes, it's a safety feature, but the K75 and the later K range had a very eloquent way of getting around this, in that it was, it's a bar, part of the cable system from the clutch cable system. You pull the clutch in, the side stand just flips up. and it's really nice, it's simple, you know, it's going to flip up. The only problem is if some git comes along, the bike's on the side stand, they start pulling on the clutch, then it does actually stretch the clutch cable. But used properly, then that's a really good safety system, and it doesn't use any electronics. Whereas this GS, it's the ECU wants feedback from this clutch switch. It wants feedback from the potentiometer, it wants feedback from the side stand, blah blah blah, before it's even going to start. Absolute pain in the arse, in my opinion. If you're off-roading or if you're in the middle of nowhere, you need your bike. You don't need any of these extra gizmos to go wrong. Also, what's really annoying is I've also just looked at the price of these switches. Another reason that I'm going to do the bypass rather than fit new switches is looking about 70 quid, 70 English pounds for the side stand switch, and about £25 for the clutch switch. Well, this switch is probably made in China for about 50p. Whack a BMW badge on it, what have you, put it in BMW packaging, and then put it up thousands and thousands of percent. No thank you. So what I'm going to do, probably do a full bypass on the side stand switch, see if I can clean up this clutch switch here, and the potentiometer, which I think is like into the hundreds of pounds. I'm just going to see if I can clean that up and probably try and pack it with grease as well. So I'll just flip the camera around so you can see how I'll try and get it closer so you can hear the click of the brake lever, because that's kind of the same click. It's exactly the same switch, and it's the same click that you want to listen for if you're doing this on your own bike, with the clutch lever. Okay, so the switch is buried up under here. Here's the lever. This is the brake lever. I definitely know it's making the click noise, so I'll just make the click now. Alright, so that's that side clicking. If we move over to here, you should hear the same click. Again, the switch is sort of up under this area here. Let's see, there we go, that area there. No click, but you can hear a squeak. So I'm going to get up under here, give it a bit of a clean out, and see if I can loosen off the switch connector. So there's a tiny 2mm hex screw up in here, and that's kind of what's holding the switch into here. And it's a good idea just to give it a bit of a good squirt before going in there, because it's so tiny it'd be easy to strip. So it's 2mm here. I'm just going to loosen this off. Again, nice and gentle, and just see. A bit of a wiggle. So what it might be is as it loosens off, it might actually loosen the switch off. I can't, now I'm wiggling the switch, I can't even hear the contactor, and it's really loose. So I think what I'm going to have to do here is take the whole switch out and just look at the whole switch unit and just see if there's a way that I can loosen off that contactor. Okay, so just taking this out, I'm going to put it on the side, because as you can see it's a real tiny bit. And okay, so you should now be able to hear it making a connection and then releasing. It's looking pretty manky. I'm going to give it a bit of a clean and then a bit of a spray, and I'm hoping that that will figure it out, sort it out. I mean, clearly, if you're off-roading, I've recently had this off-roading like the GS Challenge and places around Wales for a week. And even though you've got the guard here, it's still easy for a lot of crud to get caught up under here. Also, if you drop the bike, I'm fortunate I haven't dropped this one, but if this guard is all twisted around, it can just really damage the, it can still damage the lever, which in turn can damage the switch. But be very careful not to lose this pivot pin. It's just here, and make sure it's loose as well, which it does feel to be loose, it's not stuck in place. Okay, that appears to be all good. So just that good tidy. Also, whilst I'm at it, this screw here that I've just taken out from underneath, and just give that a bit of a clean up as well. And before I reassemble it, I'm just going to put a bit of a squirt on there. I know there's two ways of thinking about the squirt. The squirt is good for lubricants and electrical connections, but also it can make it sticky, which if there is crud kicking about everywhere, then it can be a problem, because it will, the stickiness will just pick up the crud. But in this case, I don't think it's going to hurt too much, just to give it a little spray. Certainly on the connector itself and the pivot point here, and just work it in a moment. And again, make sure that pin's in there before sliding it back into the system. So I thought you might like to see this clutch switch in action. Just bear in mind that the little pivot plate is out of this. So if I do it this way around, and that's depressed, the bike will start. When it's open, it won't start. So what I shall do is just put a bit of tape on here so it's depressed, and you can see clearly that it's down, and then you can see it starting in gear. So I'll put a bit of tape around it now. So there's a bit of tape ready. So part of the ECU, it wants to see that it's open, and then it must be depressed. So there we go, tape down, in gear, and voila! So it really is just that initial and putting it down, because obviously as you're riding along It's going to come on and off as you're moving the lever. I'll just show you again. So I'll let the ECU go through all its checks. This is fully depressed. It's a bit tricky with one hand. Get the tape on. There we go, fully depressed with the tape on. It's first gear. And okay, what I'm going to do is just put that into place. Now this is probably going to be a bit fiddly, so bear with me a moment. So I need to actually try and find the hole. Right, there's a bit of lubricant around there, so what I'm going to do is just give that a quick clean up first as well. I think I might just get a cotton bud in there. Before I put it in, I think on these threads, just thinking forward now, on these threads I'm going to put a little bit of copper slip, because I got a feeling, and certainly from reading about it, this is a part that does go wrong often. So if there's a bit of copper slip on these threads, then it's going to be easier to get out in future. Just a little bit, just a thin smear. I'll pop this up in here. Okay, I can start to feel that on the pivot pin now. Just going to have to do a bit of fine adjustment. Might need to just come out a tad. and obviously not over tighten the screw bit either. Loose again. So I can't go any looser than that. I need to try and now figure out why it's not moving when it's in there. So by all accounts it was in the same, approximately the same place. The actual connector bar on the switch is really very loose, and I'm wondering if that might be the issue, as the switch is gone, which would be a real pain in the behind if it is the switch that's gone. I will just try a little bit more adjustment first though. It might take a bit of a while to get this. Okay, lovely. I think that's it there. So I will just try tighten that up a little bit more. Right, so now we need to test it, and basically that will be the side stand down in gear test. Right, it feels secure enough. There's definitely a click there, so I'll give it a test, see how we get on.